Hi, everybody. This is Amy Mayer, and I'm here with my friends Brianna Hodges and Rich Lombardo. And we're going to be working together today to talk to you about using Google Forms for formative assessment. So this is taking advantage of a new feature that Google Forms just came out with recently, where you can turn a form into a quiz in a really easy way. So we're going to show you how that feature works if you haven't seen it before, and just talk about how great this is for formative assessment for teachers. So I'll leave this slide up for a couple of minutes so anybody who wants to can see this presentation. I know it's also at the Edu On Air site because some of you guys are already taking my formative assessment that is inside here. However, what you don't know is that when you take it, so if you're working ahead and you want to take it, what you don't know is you actually get a lot more out of it if you get the answers wrong than if you get them right. So what I did with the form that's within this presentation, which we'll get to in just a minute and I'll ask all of you guys to take, is I created it so that you could get some feedback when you got the wrong answer. So obviously there's only so much I can do if you get the right answer, but if you get the wrong answer, I can provide you a YouTube video or a link to try to help you learn the material that you didn't get. So if you've already taken it, that's okay. Go ahead and when we get there, take it again, and this time get the answers wrong, and we'll take a look at how that works. So it's really neat to be used as a teaching tool. All right, hopefully you've got that URL. And I'm going to move to the next slide. And if you're working along with me, we'll be on slide 4. So slide 4 is my contact information. I hope we can stay in touch after today. I'd love to see you on Twitter or Facebook or YouTube. I think my YouTube channel is probably the best channel that I have. So I hope you'll check that out for things like what we're talking about today. And that we can keep in touch. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask. You can ask on YouTube, you can get on Facebook, really any of these channels will let you ask a question. It's where I get my best ideas for sessions and for videos and things like that. It's from people like you who are looking at my materials and they think, well, what if, or how about this? So don't hesitate to do that. All right, so we're going to start today by talking about what formative assessment is and is not. So I've been in education for about 20 years now, and I remember when differentiated instruction was becoming such a big thing. I was a teacher in the classroom, and I went to some curriculum and instruction meeting, and people kept talking about differentiated instruction, and I thought, what are they talking about? And nobody ever explained that term. They just said it like everybody already knew, and it kind of made me embarrassed to eventually raise my hand and say, what do you mean by that? So I try to never talk about an educational term and assume that everybody knows what it means anymore, because I know how I felt. So let's just go over really briefly what formative assessment is. So it's called formative because it informs my teaching. It lets me know whether students are getting it or not, because obviously if what I'm doing isn't working, then it's a waste of my time and students. So I really need to know if it's working. This is going to be something that you use frequently, and if you're a teacher, you're probably doing this all day long, every day. My friend Rich just finished his session, and he said the hardest thing about this is not being able to see people's faces, because that's what we do as teachers. We look at your face and we try to figure out if you understand what we're talking about. Well, this is maybe a more reliable way. It is usually not used for a grade. So maybe eventually when a student reaches mastery, we could use something that's similar to a formative assessment for a grade, but then we would call it a quiz or a test or something like that. So these things are not formative assessment. These are summative assessments. A quiz, a test, a final draft, anything that's evaluative then is going to be a summative assessment, not formative. So hopefully that makes sense to everyone. And we'll move on to the part I know you want to talk about, which is the latest version of Google Forms. So you've probably seen it by now. If not, hopefully you'll be seeing it today. We can take a look at it together. But the best part of it for education is the quizzes feature, and we're going to learn how to access that today. All right, this is the quiz I was talking about before. If you're in these slides with me, it'll be really easy to just click on that link that's at the top there. If you missed that link in the beginning and you don't want to tune out, go somewhere else and come back in, then go ahead and just type that URL into your browser. That should give you the quiz that we're taking today. And I want to remind you, we don't want you to get 100 on it. Actually, we'd much rather you get a 0. So go ahead and take it and answer what you think is a wrong answer on each one of those questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch off my screen share for a minute and switch over to a more live window where you can actually see what's going on my screen. So, hi, that's me. Hope you guys are doing well today. So I'm going to screen share again, but I'm going to grab a different application window where you will actually be able to see me like moving my mouse and stuff like that. So this is the quiz that you're looking at right now. And I'm going to go ahead and preview this. So this is what it's going to look like to you as a person taking it. So if you're taking it, you're probably already done with it because it's really short. But I just want to mention that one of the features that's available now is being able to put in GIFs or GIFs, whatever you prefer to call them, moving pictures and or other kinds of pictures into a form. So that's pretty cool. Math teachers everywhere were really celebrating when they were finally able to put pictures into forms. All right, so I'm going to go and take a look at your responses. If you haven't used Google Forms in a while, or maybe you haven't ever used it before, maybe you have not seen this cool response tab. So this is really nice. It's showing me now that you guys are completing my quiz. So I can see in my Hangout that there are 368 viewers, and my responses are counting. They're up to 191 right now. So I'll just go ahead and wait on the rest of you, about like 100 people to finish, and then we'll move on. I can't wait for you to finish. So we'll just move on all together, and you can take that and get finished when you want. You can see I'm not really doing that great as a teacher. But actually I am, because you guys know I told you not to do well on it. 114 people couldn't help themselves, though. They had to make 100. I know you guys. It's okay. I understand how you are. I'm going to switch over now and take a look at the spreadsheet. So here's the responses tab that's in my Google form now. And if I click on this green icon right here, that's going to let me send my results to a spreadsheet so I can see more clearly what those look like. I can sort them. So it just gives me a different view. So that's really neat to be able to do that too. But back to our point, what we want to know is, how are we going to be able to teach using these forms? So I'm going to go ahead and say formative assessment is a way to punish kids if they didn't study. This question is, the newest version of forms will allow me to provide feedback. It does let you do that. So I'm going to say no, because I want to get the answer wrong. And then, how often should teachers use it? I'm going to say every month, because I know that's the wrong answer too. So let me go ahead and submit my form, and I'm going to view my score and see how I did. So obviously you guys know what happened. I answered every question wrong, and now I get some feedback. So it says, read all the answer choices before you pick. Let me go ahead and click on this link and see what happens. So my teacher sent me to a YouTube video about formative assessment, and now I get a chance to watch that and kind of re-study what it was that I just missed. So I hope you guys who haven't seen that feature before are super excited. So that's what the feedback looks like. Bree and Rich, is everybody doing okay? Am I good to move on and take a look at how the tools work?
I think so. There's a couple people that are asking if after the session's over with, you can make it to where they can have a copy of it instead of just a presentation of instead of just viewing the presentation.
Yeah, sure. I'd be glad to do that. The only thing I would ask is that if you use my presentation, you leave my social media links there, and encourage people to follow me or check out my materials. So that's what you could do for me if you'd like to take this and share it with other people. That'd be awesome. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at this tool and see how it works. So I'm going to kind of make the assumption that you guys have probably made a Google form before. If not, it's a really simple process. So I'm going to navigate to drive.google.com, And on my screen, I'm going to go down to More and then select Google Forms from the list. Now, I'm making my form inside a folder that is for this session, and I do that for organizational purposes because if not, it'll just kind of be sitting out there in my drive and I won't maybe remember what it is. So the first thing I'll do is give my form a name. That's going to happen in the top left-hand corner. The reason I do it here instead of down here in this space is because if I name it up here, it's going to pop to both places. So I'm going to call this Formative Assessment, and this is 12/3/16. So I'll just give it a name right up here, and when I click off of it, you can see that it's going to populate that name of the form right down here too. Now, I could go ahead and build my questions right now and put in my answer choices, but since I'm doing this demo for you to show you the quiz feature, I'm going to just go ahead and show you how to activate that feature right now. So what we're going to do is go to the gear that's in the top right-hand corner. It's right next to the send button. And at the gear, we're going to select our options. Now, we really don't want to skip over these. If you're a teacher in a school, you probably do want to restrict sign-in to your domain, and you probably do want to limit to one response. You need to decide whether you want students to be able to edit and decide whether you want them to see those summary charts and text responses. So that's all up to you. Just think through that. And then we're going to move over to the quizzes tab of the settings. So you can see the first thing we need to do is just toggle on make this a quiz. So now we have to decide, are we going to release the grades right now, or are we going to wait until later after we look at them? So I know you guys know, if you've been a teacher before, that there are some classes of kids, if you release these grades immediately, you're going to have a ruckus in the classroom. And so you just want to do that like anytime after they're not there anymore. That's the time to release. But I'm going to go ahead and let mine release immediately. And then I'm going to choose what my students can see. Can they see which questions they missed? Can they see what the right answer was? And then can they see how much the question was worth? So these are just all decisions we have to make as a teacher, and it's totally going to be up to you. So I'll go ahead and save this. And now we need to make our questions. Well, if you are operating outside of a Google domain, let's say that you have a Google account and maybe your students don't, you can still use this, but the first thing you want to do is you want to ask your students their name. If you're collecting their email addresses automatically, that would be a great scenario, but not everybody has their students able to log into Google. So I love what just happened. I don't know if you noticed, but this question was originally set as multiple choice, and it just transformed itself on its own into short answer. It did that because of the text I typed in. So it's gotten really smart. It's very cool. I'm going to go ahead and set that question to required, and then use the duplicate button, which is this button right here. I'm going to use that to duplicate because my next question is going to be almost identical. I'm going to change this one to first name. I want it to be required also. Now, these two questions don't need an answer key, but you can see that I have that option down there. My next question is going to be a multiple choice question, and I am going to show you the answer key feature. Is everybody still doing okay, you guys?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, awesome. All right, so I'm going to ask a multiple choice question. I'm going to ask whose hair is best today in this hangout. So your choices are Rich, who's sporting a shiny, shiny dome. Brianna, who has some beautiful, luscious blonde hair. Or me, and I'm not going to show you my hair again because it didn't really do what I wanted to today. So the right answer is probably going to be Brianna. So let's put our answer choices in. So we're going to put Brianna, we're going to put Rich, and we're going to put Amy. So those are our three possible choices. And now let's go ahead and set up our, I'm going to change it to required. And let's go ahead and set up our answer key now. So I just click the answer key button right underneath, and the correct answer is going to be Brianna. And now this is where I can do some teaching. So I can click on the add answer feedback, and I can choose what my incorrect answer people get. So my kids who don't get it right, they either picked Amy or Rich, not Brianna. What do I want them to see? So I can type whatever feedback I want right here. And I can also provide them a link. I can give them a link to a YouTube video, a website. If I have a Google Doc that I've made public, I could link them to a Google Doc. If I have a PDF that we use to study this concept in class today, I could put it in my Google Drive, make it so that anyone with the link can see it, and I could give them a link to that. Now, this link text is going to be what my students see. So I might type something like, click here to see why. And then right here, I might put a link to, let me go ahead and put a link in here to this presentation just so you can see how that looks. So see, this link is long and crazy looking. This says click here to see why. Up here, I'm just going to go ahead and type, uh-oh, that's not right. Now, if my students got the correct answer, I might want to give them some feedback too. I can give them a link as well. So I can say, nice job, you're right. And then I have the same options with this link on the correct answer. So I'll go ahead and click save. And now it shows my feedback right underneath. I can go back in there and edit that. And really, that's all there is to it. It's quite a simple feature. So if you have questions at this point, I'm betting that they are, does it do something other than what I just showed you? And basically, at this point, it really does not. That's pretty much all it does. But of course, play around with it. And if you find a new feature before I do, let me know, because I would love to see this be even more robust than it already is. But it's pretty cool. All right, I'm going to go back to my presentation and make sure I haven't missed anything that's really critical for you guys. Hopefully you were able to see the feedback responses inside when you took the quiz and got the wrong answer. If not, you can always take that again. So this is what your form options, remember we went into that gear in the top right, and then we went to settings. This is what they would normally look like in a school environment where your students can sign into a Google account. So I just put that screenshot in there for you so that you can kind of mimic that if you're new to using this. This is what it's going to look like on a quiz, and then all of the options that you'll see there. That's how I would normally set it up. This is just a kind of a screenshot of what the answers are going to look like, just reminding you where that answer key setup is. Also, we didn't take a look yet at the points, so let's go back to our sample quiz that we just made and notice that right up here, let me see if my magnifier, no, my magnifier won't work for you, but right up here, this is where we set the points. So let's say we had 5 questions and we wanted some of them to be worth more, like maybe this is a really important question. We can make this worth 10 and the others worth 5, or whatever we want to do. So that's where we set those options. And there's a screenshot of what that looks like. Remember, you can also do 2 of these kind of answers. So just another question type that you can go ahead and use. This is what the feedback looks like. Of course, we just did that live, but this may be a better view for you if my screen looked really tiny to you when I was doing that part. So if you guys want to practice with this, here's a little mini challenge for you. So it's probably a good time in our last 10 minutes here for you to go ahead and try out this feature and see how that works for you. And I also want to draw your attention to the last slide that's in this presentation, which is pretty much the features that I've shown you today. It's a video from my YouTube channel, and you'll be able to watch all of this again later. I would also hope that you would share this with other teachers you work with, because I think you guys will agree that this is a feature that really every teacher should know about. It is another kind of tool in your arsenal for making sure you're doing formative assessment. So I'm going to go ahead and stop screen sharing and make eye contact with you guys, and see if we have any questions that I can answer or learn who's been here. Like I'm curious, in Rich's session, there were people from all over the world. Do we have people from all over the world?
We do. We've got some from Singapore. We've got some from Portugal. We are all over the place. I can't even keep up where all we're from. We've got Miami. We've got New Zealand. You've got people all over the place showing up for us today. But a couple questions that are coming up. One of them is, can you have more than one correct answer on your quiz? And then a follow-up to that, shifting gears just a little bit, is can you set up a key, if you will, a correct answer for a short answer response?
All right, well, let me answer both of those. I'm going to screen share one more time and take a look at this question, because the first one, I would say you can sort of do that. So what I would do on that one where you really want to give two correct answers is I would make a question like this, where the right answer is two of these. So they're not really saying which two. So you can't go in, I don't think, and multiple select. You could try doing the question type check boxes and see how that looks for you. It may be possible to do it that way, but I think this is probably the most straightforward and easiest way to do that. And Bree, what was the second question?
Second question was, if you have a short response, like a short paragraph response or a short response, can you set up a feedback for that?
Yes, you could do feedback for that, but I don't know how it would tell whether that's right or wrong. Have either of you guys tried that kind of question type? I think you would have to go in and grade that by hand, and that's when you would want to use this feature. So you would want to turn on later after manual review, um, and that would be how you would go in and kind of hand grade that question. Now, we haven't talked about this and we don't have time to dive into it today, but I don't want you guys to forget about this amazing tool. So the usefulness of this has not gone away, and it's called Flubaroo. So Flubaroo is going to give you the most options for grading a quiz. The Google options are really, really simple. They're going to be super expedient for formative assessment. But if you are really getting into this, make sure you go into your form spreadsheet, go into Get Add-ons, and then find this add-on called Flubaroo inside. Look, for me, it's the very first one right here. So what you want to do is add that to your sheets. Once you add it once, you'll see it in every spreadsheet. And then when you activate it, you'll click on add-ons and go to Flubaroo, and you'll just enable it in this sheet. Once you do that in your sheet, you're going to see tons of options and directions. And this is a very full-featured add-on. So don't be intimidated by it. Like if you've thought before, well, add-ons are really hard, I don't know how to do that. Don't be intimidated. Just remember that all you're really doing is just reading the screen. So you just go through here, find Flubaroo in your list. Once you've installed it, go to it, click Grade Assignment. So if you want to do those short answers, it even has an option now to choose that your question will be graded by hand. So this is probably what I would do if I had a short answer question. Anything else, you guys? Any other questions that you got?
Can I tag one on to that one as well? So they were asking about using images as well in the key. Is that possible?
So as far as putting in an image as a feedback, the only thing that you could do there is you could link to it. So let's go back and kind of review what that dialogue looks like and see what we could do with it. So remember, we can only have an incorrect answer and a correct answer, and our only choice right there is to link to an image. So let's say we wanted to link to, a funny GIF or something like that. Well, we could do that right here. The student would have to click on that to be able to see it, and you'd have to make sure that it was, available on your student's network. So it wouldn't really be as fun as if you could do something like what you see in this question choice right here, which is really where you're adding pictures as answer choices. So let's take a look at what that would look like real quick. So if we want to make a new question and we're going to actually add a photo, a picture as an answer choice, then here's our option to do that right out here. So it's our little photo button.
I don't think we're seeing your screen.
Oh, thanks.
To share.
Well, I was having a really good time and it was all going really well for me. So I'll just let you guys know that. Let me go back so you can see what that option looks like. So here it is. This is the little photo button that I would be able to click on. And then you could go in and search something from your drive. I mean, you can get the picture from wherever you want and put it in as an answer choice. So this is just a picture I took today when we were getting set up for Rich's session. So now this could be an answer choice right here. And that's how I set up this particular question that has the yes and the no gifts in there. All right, did you guys get any more questions?
There's a question that is talking about adding new pages. In the old forms, it was easy to add new pages. However, in the new one, I haven't been able to make multiple pages in one form. Can you demonstrate that? I think she's talking about adding sections.
I think so too. And yes, that is such a great technique. So you know, we often think about doing things like this for our students with special needs for modifications, but this is really a good technique for any student. If you have a longer assessment, and students are going to have to really scroll and scroll and scroll, that can be real hard to keep up with visually. So what you want to do, and I think you'll see it on my screen right now, is you want to add a section. So you don't have to make questions go places based on an answer. You can just go ahead and add a next section there if you want to. But if you wanted to differentiate this way, like for example, you wanted someone to be able to submit a form if they got an answer wrong, like maybe if a student said, you know, answered this question correctly, you want them to go on because you know they know something about that concept. But if they didn't, you just want that to be the end. I mean, there's that saying that a student who can be helped by or a student who doesn't know how to do a worksheet can't be helped by it. So if you're in that situation where they don't know and you don't want them to just keep getting it wrong, then you can just go ahead and have them submit maybe after that wrong answer. So that's how you do it now, just with add section. And it still is going to be really simple for you. Did you guys have any other questions?
Yeah, you got it, Bree.
Oh, no, you go for it. Go for it.
So there was one that was asking, is there a way to prevent screenshots when someone's taking a quiz in forms?
I don't think so. I don't know of a way to do that. I mean, there is some software that can be purchased that will, like a lockdown browser is the term that you would look for, that would, you know, be kind of a mechanism to prevent cheating. But I would encourage you, probably the best thing you can do if you're teaching face to face with your students is really walk around the room and look over shoulders. Rich, do you know of anything better to prevent cheating that's free and easy?
As far as free, no. I mean, on an iPad, I'm wondering if they were locked in, if it would prevent them from taking the screenshots, but you'd need third-party apps. I'm wondering too, one other possibility might be shuffling questions and answers.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great point. Okay, so let's take a look at that setting. So what we could do then is choose some different settings for our answers. So if we're going to have a multiple choice, we could choose to shuffle those. All right, y'all are going to have to help me out. Where is that option right now? Do you guys remember where it is in this version of Forms, where we shuffle?
Yeah, it's the 3 dots or your hot dogs bottom right, and it should bring up the option to shuffle
there
the
it is.
option order.
Yeah, thanks, Rich. So this is, so at the top, this is a settings thing for a question, but on each question, you're going to have this settings, yes, and I like to call them hot dogs. So that's the setting hot dogs for that question. And this is where you can choose go to section based on answer, and also where you can shuffle the option order. Now, is there a way, y'all, to shuffle the question order as well? I don't think so. I think it's just the options.
I believe it's in the gear up at the top.
Okay, let's see if we can find it. Here it is right here. So that setting is under presentation. And so you could do both. You could shuffle question order, and you could shuffle the answer order. So that might do a little to prevent cheating, which I think is what you're trying to do, or prevent somebody who's in first period from screenshotting everything and giving it to the person who's in second period. Oh, sorry. Rich, you have to tell me when you don't see my screen. I forget. This is harder than it looks. All right, so here's that option we were looking for. Here's one. So at the bottom of the question, this is where we can shuffle the option order for the individual question. And then this gear up here and the presentation tab is where we can shuffle the question order. So those are those two options that we were looking for. Now, it might be kind of weird because remember we put last name, first name there, and I suppose it'll shuffle those two. So that's going to look kind of odd to your students. But I mean, more important, academic integrity is more important than whether that looks odd. And your spreadsheet is still going to show up with your last name, first name in the order that you put those in the quiz. So it won't be odd to you. It'll just look weird to them. All right, I think our time's up. Do we have anything we need to address before we sign off for today?
The last question that I think you can do this one pretty quickly. It's not the last question, but can you create a time limit on forms? So do you want to talk about turning responses on and off maybe, or?
Yeah, sure. So you can always go in and make it so people cannot continue answering your form. Let me screen share and I'll show you that really quickly. But I don't know a way, and Rich is the guy I ask about things like this. Rich, is there an add-on to forms that we could actually use to turn this on and off at a certain time?
There might be, but I'm not aware of any.
Yeah, I'm not either. So there's one called Form Limiter, but I think it's going to limit the answer choices that can be chosen and not actually what you guys are talking about. So here's that option right here. If I want to stop people answering this quiz, I can turn off this button right here in my response tab, and people will not be able to take this quiz anymore until or if I turn that back on. All right, well, thank you guys so much for joining me today, and especially you, Bree, and you, Rich. Thank you guys so much, and it was fun. I'm glad nobody had to sing during this one, but that was fun too.
We would have for
Yep.
Would you? Okay, well, next year you're doing it then.
Great. Hey, Amy, one quick thing. It looks, I just pulled up Form Limiter. It looks like you can set a date and time, so we might want to check.
Oh, awesome. Okay, well, I'm glad we got that in there before we left. So check out form add-ons. You go to the hot dogs in the very top right of your forms, and that's where you're going to get add-ons in your puzzle piece. And then check out Form Limiters. Did I get the name of it right?
Yes.
Yeah, Form Limiter.
Okay, awesome. So check that out. Cool. All right. Thanks so much, you guys. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So long.